Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Totally Indian Football Show. And just like any other episodes, we once again are joined by a very special guest called Anirban Ghosh, who needs no introduction, but just for a formal way to introduce him, he runs a club called the Sangam Vihar FC. He also has a foundation called Khel Khel Me, which is the club is part of the foundation, and he runs the club alongside Abreshman and Arco, whom we all know very well. And this club has been doing wonderful works in the community for the girls and the boys. This is a girls' team at the point, and they recently played in their women's league run by the Football Delhi Association. Now, there were a few issues that they raised, a few complaints that they raised during the season, during the league, and it was all out in the news. We also hear Anirban talk about that in length in the one of the podcast called the Fan Garage. But Anirban, here we are. Well, firstly, welcome to the show. Hope you're doing well, and I'm thanking you for thank you for coming in a last minute request a day before I asked you, and you said yes. Thank you so much for accepting the invite.
Thanks, Siju. Thanks for the invite. Yeah.
Okay, then. So let's get started. Just like I mentioned, we know of a few things that didn't go right for you guys in the league. So if you can just update us with regards to what's happening at the point you guys raised a complaint, and it's been a month or so at the point. If you can share some updates.
Right. I mean, as you mentioned, there are four major issues which I spoke in the podcast with Chiranjit as well, and I'll briefly mention them and mention where things stand as of now and what happened in this time frame of say a month or so. Uh, so the first thing which we kind of flagged was the quality of officiating throughout the entire league, which has two phases: the championship phase and the Premier League phase. Uh, on that aspect of officiating, there was a specific aspect of a conflict of interest issue in the allocation of referees. So the status is, I mean, we met the league committee, the president, and the general secretary of the association on 28th Feb, the last match day of the Premier League of the club we're playing the banner of. So I mean, and we followed it up with a mail, and we got a response from the competitions section of the federation, the local federation. I mean, the things which they have mentioned is that out of the officiating issues we mentioned, there are two officials. They have been taken off the roster because of poor quality of officiating. But the surprising thing here is that we have raised that protest back in December as well, and only after our second protest on, I mean, the same official was given a match after a month or after almost 50 odd days, and when he protested again, then he was taken off the roster along with one of his colleagues. And but with the third official in this context, whose allocation was a big question mark on the transparency and I'll say the neutrality of the whole competition, because it was a clear case of a conflict of interest, because the referee on a particular match day, on our second match day of the Premier League, we're playing a club called Growing Star FC, and the fourth official was in the past officially a player on the CRS on the Growing Star FC. Also, since at KK may have been in this Delhi football circuit for almost 5 to 6 years now, we know that she has been a part of the club, and I mean, my colleagues used to coordinate in terms of we wanted to play friendly match and everything, and that same fact has been kind of reinstated or by on the other clubs in Delhi, Royal Rangers also, that yeah, she has been associated with the Growing Stars FC. And how come one person who has been very clearly associated with the particular club gets a chance to officiate or be part of the officiating team on the same match. The response we received from the competitions department is not satisfying. And what they mentioned is that since she was not in the CRS when, as a player, when the tournament of this edition commenced, so it is not a conflict of interest. A. B. I mean, very, I'll say a bit bizarre. As it mentioned, her integrity is beyond question. I don't know how subjectively such character certificates are being handed over by the uh, footballing bodies, who are supposed to have some structure and accountability or methods. See, what they mentioned is that, I mean, the referee in question has her last season with that particular club, Growing Star FC, was in 2014-15. After that, while the CRS shows that she was registered as a player of the club in 2019-20 season, they mentioned that those registrations were all done by forged signatures by a person of that club, which apparently the federation has found out now. After uh, it's very I'll say weird in a way to understand that, okay, we raised a complaint and now they found out, okay, the entire squad has been registered by forged signatures a couple of years back, and still they are not open to accept that there has to be a better system and transparent structures in process, so that the teams who are in the competition feel that it is being conducted in a fair manner. And so, and even after, and this is how where the refereeing aspect of the complaint stands as of now. And I have been, I mean, trying to again gather more information, and I think I have more information with which I will try to respond in a more detailed way. The whole thing of that, while a referee is, while a player is in the CRS, suppose a person is in the CRS system as a player, she was not officiating is also wrong. I have proof of that now. So yeah, I mean that loop from the federation end, they have just kind of on the refereeing aspect said that this particular referee is a very upcoming, promising official, and her integrity is beyond question. And whatever has happened has been done by some unnamed person by registering her player by forging her signatures, about which the federation just knew now, since we raised the complaint and the investigation happened. I mean, this is the state of the first aspect of the complaint. There are other two, three aspects. I'll quickly brief them. And the second was the CRS, because what you mentioned and what you have seen and you have proof of that the CRS registration was being, the deadline was not followed, or you can say that the deadline was not same for all the participating clubs, and the teams kept on registering players, and for on the and the duplicate player profiles being approved without following due in like a transfer procedure, to which the response was absolutely, the state federation is pointing fingers at the national federation saying, we have no role, and it's all up to AIFF. And this is the first time, even the same at the beginning of the championship stage early in December, we had a player whose consent we form was with us, but when he wanted to register, we have seen that she has already been registered by a different club, and with a forged signature, we got a written request from the player and requested the state association, but it kind of stalled and it got approved, and we have to reach out to AIFF directly and got it reversed. And no action, as per our knowledge, has been taken either by AIFF or by the local Football Delhi Association on the forged signature case of that player. So, I mean, the state association is kind of saying that yes, this happens. So, how do we trust that? Okay, the whole player registration system is fair, or at least it is kind of going through multiple checks, and since we can trust the process. So that was second. I mean, we are not satisfied at all on that response because anyone who has been to the CRS portal knows that it has two levels of approvals: one to the state association, and then it moves to AIFF. Number three was the conducting the league and I mean the basic hygiene factors about the referee assessor and the match commissioner being on ground, to which there is no official response we have received. We raised the point in the meeting as well, but I mean there's no satisfactory or even not much response have been received on that note. So yeah, that loop remains totally unanswered. That was the match commissioner, and why someone who have left the association, his job in the association, is still being put up in the records as a match commissioner. And in none of our matches, and barring one where in the Premier League, one or two, yeah, two, none of our matches had a referee assessor or a match commissioner, while the document on at least six out of the eight matches showed there is a referee assessor, and all the eight matches, if I'm not wrong, showed there is a match commissioner. So I mean, the match sheets, the paperwork shows something. The reality is very different. And I mean, the fourth point in this connection is that why the procedure of raising an issue or a grievance redressal mechanism have such a hefty price tag that okay, you have to pay 5 grand to raise a protest. I mean, that's a very undemocratic way of suppressing or like running the show, I'll say. So again, nothing that we have heard on that note as well. So just summarizing it, what we have heard that the referees, out of the three referees, two will be going through training, and not all three. The third referee is beyond doubt, and the third referee has no mistake in the third referee in the discussion, and her playing career was mistakenly been, I mean, created by forced signatures by some unknown person. So it was nobody's fault. And although, I mean, by now I have proof that even that claim is not not standing its ground. And so yeah, and in terms of match commissioner or in terms of referee assessor, you can just mention directly to the referee assessor, reach out to him. Documents they haven't answered, and why such a undemocratic process of grievance redressal? No answers.
Wow, some of the points that you raised and the way the federation, I mean the association has reacted, it's even crazier than a movie plot. I mean, to say that somebody's integrity, I mean, it's beyond. You can't question that person. Is that person so clean? I mean, that's something crazy. One is that. Second, even while I was listening to the podcast that you were on the fan garage, I made a point in terms to ask, and you raised it right now as well. To raise a protest, you have to pay an amount. I just want to know, with I have less knowledge about this, all of these technical aspects when it comes to law and stuff. Is that the case followed across the globe? I mean, and is this okay? First question is this amount that you have to raise for a protest only with regards to if it's a complaint regarding a referee? One is that, and second is this something that's globally done?
To be very honest with you, at this point, I need to look at global competition documents, and I'm not ready to answer this question from a global competition perspective. So I'll do my research and I'll get back to you over WhatsApp. I mean by tomorrow. In terms of the amount to be paid, uh, as far as I remember, and I will cross check this again with the manual, the league manual, is that it is not specific to the referees. It is generic, and I mean the slab starting from 5,000. I think it just goes up until 60,000.
Yeah, that's what the amounts were mentioned. Yeah.
But even if it is run, even if it happens globally, I mean, my personal standpoint is that that is not the justified thing, because a wrong thing, or a or undemocratic process followed by 90 out of 100 federation doesn't make it a democratic process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the most, that's like the most cleanest way to shun somebody from raising any protest, right? And that's something unfair because just like the first point, that earlier point that you mentioned, that this person can't be questioned because that person is beyond questioning her integrity. I mean, that's like saying everyone who works in the federation or the association is so clean that you can't raise a protest one second, you can't question the authority. So that's really unfair on you guys. So what is the next step now? Firstly, when you raised all of these complaints on social media, there was an uproar naturally. Like all of us came in support, all the fan handles came in support and shared that widely and stuff. Then that kind of pushed the man who, I mean, I don't want to degrade him, but it just looks like he spends half of his life on Twitter. Uh, he was not very quick to tweet this time when this news came out. But it took him a while, and when the national team fan handle shared, he went on to say that it pains his heart to see all of this. So when you guys reached out to him, talking with the president of the Football Delhi Association, did you see any kind of pain that did he express any kind of pain with what you guys had to go through?
Honestly, I mean, I wanted to also I want to talk very specifically, and I would prefer to talk very objectively on any of the discussions. I think what the comment on the Blue Pilgrims tweet, what I decipher is that the reaction was painful. That's my interpretation. And I think the reaction of the fans was painful. May not be the incident in the first place. And that's painful for me uh, to kind of realize, oh, I mean, if the incident is not painful enough, it's just the outrage that is painful, then that's a big concern for me. And again, I think that perception was not entirely a perception now, because I honestly don't see that the whole discussion was about players, because the whole discussion was about how to uh, actually make the system of competitions, let's say competitions, I mean, I digress to other aspects like development and grassroots and everything, more I'll say transparent and robust. But it was more about the overall image and the picture of the football in the state. uh, it's I think the lens was very top down and not bottom up. And I mean, at KK, I mean, at KKM and SVFC, which is a part of all this, I mean, the whole initiative, which has been in running in Delhi for more than 6 years now, our our approach and our belief systems is very bottom up, in terms of that. Okay, to ensure that this set of players or this set of communities, people get associated to the sport, find a pathway, or uh, how can it be ensured, not the other way around. Okay, how to make a good footballing, I'll say, I mean, and the approach hasn't never been that, okay, people should talk good about football, or people should talk how big scale it has been doing, so let's do this. So I think what was sad, and then I kind of emphasize on that word, it was sad for me to proven that my perception from that tweet response was not entirely a perception. I think I was perceiving it in a right way, if I may say so.
Yeah, and I think even I agree to your interpretation. I think he was upset of the fact that some of other tweets got more traction than his own tweets. But anyway, so what's the future like? I mean, before asking that, I want to ask one more thing. One more tweet that you had shared was that you guys plan to move away from the Football Delhi, playing under the belt of Football Delhi Association. So What's that like? Was that just like an outrage for the moment, or is that something that you're really considering about?
I think I answered this also. I mean, is that to break it down, what we mentioned, what he meant is that our connection and our work in the community will continue. We're not moving to any other community, any other state, and start afresh, or taking a set of only 15 players who played in this league and let's work with them in, say, Bangalore or Mumbai, just for the sake of name, or Kerala. But what we meant was, we have the thought, and we still have that thought, that okay, I mean, if there is, and we look for those uh, opportunities, if there is a more, I'll say, well intentioned, more level playing field, absolutely. I mean, will put in all efforts to be there.
Okay, now that the league's done and you guys have gone through a lot of things, I mean, if this is the biggest challenge that you had to face, and how, if I may ask, how is the mood uh, in the camp, in the team among the girls? Because they are just too young to take all of this at this point, right? Because in certain, in other way, they, I mean, life has been unfair to them in certain ways, and when they got this opportunity and when they thought this is the time that they kind of shine out, and I'm sure there'll be more moments for them to shine. They are good strengths also, but at this point, after that, they went through about, the unfair things that they had to go through on the pitch. What's the camp mood like when you now go to coach them? How do you mentally train them?
I'll just give a little background before answering this. Is that, and I'm not justifying that, anything, but the thing is, what has happened to the entire camp, and it is absolutely not helping any one of us, kind of, in terms of, I'll say, motivating us, or it is demotivating, plain and simple. So that's a very clear thing. How we are coping with that, how the players are coping with that. Uh, Before playing this Delhi Women's League Championship and Premier Division, uh, coming into this league, this squad have played almost, I think, 10 to 11,000 match minutes, and out of which we have played senior, I mean, open age category, and boys uh, in 80% of those match minutes. So, and now I'm mentioning this, we have played under 15 boys tournaments, and we know the kind of age fraud issue persistent across the system. We have played, the 14-year-old girls have played against 18-year boys. And so, one thing we have been very clear from the start, let's say 4 years back, that we will build ourselves to grow in spite of all this. Does that mean, okay? I mean, we have. I mean, this doesn't matter to us, or I mean, we no. I mean, it all of it's disappointing, but at the same time, this is one of the many things which we came across. And at the stage, yes, I mean, at a directly the federation, at the state level tournaments, but this is not, I mean, being at the receiving end of something unfair. This is not new. And I think, and the other factor which is very crucial is that we prepare and practice the game throughout the year, and not for a specific tournament. And so the habit, or the mindset of preparing oneself, performing, coming back, and again learning and going back, that's kind of inculcated for years. And I think we are simply looking forward to playing better football. And while at the same time, raising or kind of continuing with the issues. Even I mean, in many of the local tournaments, we raised for a request for a TW3, and very less. I mean, nobody encouraged the requests, but we did. So this is something new for us, and I'm sure this is not the last one for us. It's not very welcoming, but this is how the reality is. This is how life is in Indian football and in general. I mean, uh, so we have to, I'll say, build ourselves to ride against this tide.
Yeah, rightly put there. I think if people want to know how or to practice motivation, they should just look at people who work in Indian football, especially the grassroots level, who are investing honestly and doing some genuine work of putting in hard work. One among them is you, and the work that you guys do. Uh, to talk about the larger spectrum of women's football, as somebody who's invested in women's football, um, how do you see things going about in the country, in the country and globally as well? Because I'm sure you would also be following what's happening across the globe. And recently, with India hosting the event, it was a good turn. I mean, it was, people did watch the games, right? Unfortunately, the Indian team had to couldn't continue the entire tournament, but there was a buzz around it. And then we also saw, a huge number recorded being for the Barcelona versus Madrid game for the women's team. So, how do you see all of these things panning out for women's football in our country, and what is your thoughts on it?
I have been factually trying to understand Indian women's football, Indian football also, globally, not at that depth at which I wish to study it as of now, although just started. How do I see it? I'll say not promising. And if then the immediate question is why? It's simply that I think the approach. I mean, what is the intention? If the intention is to grow or develop the game, women's game, if I talk specifically, what does that mean? Have we set some goalposts for us, benchmarks for us? Uh, and if the response comes, okay, yes, the benchmarks are that we are hosting tournaments, global tournaments, or we are playing uh, maybe 20 countries, different countries across 2 years, across 5 continents. I have a huge disagreement to that, especially when in 10 days' time, the IWL is hopefully starting after a 2 years break, and there's a league which has been called off and no attempt to make a biobubble around it, while the biobubble existed for the other and the premier leagues. I was recently kind of sharing a presentation on one of the conclaves, and I mentioned it very clearly that the whole prize money of IWL is in the tune of 25 lakhs as per the last edition is concerned. And all the three NFCs, the sub junior, junior, and senior national NFCs, which happened, all three happened last time in 2019 20 season, uh, was cumulatively costed the federation around 3.3 crores. Uh, from what I recollect from the balance sheet of the federation, which is up in the website. The exact numbers they can put it. It will be 3.47 or something like that. While the cost of organizing the Asian Cup, or even cost of organizing this a trip to Jordan, for which the Indian team will be playing Egypt and Jordan in over next few days, next 4 days, will be comparable, I believe. And the cost of conducting the under 17 World Cup will touch a budget of around 100 crores. So, how many IWL can happen? How many NFCs can happen across states? And how many girls, women uh, can play how many matches with that kind of an organizational budget? Won't that expand the game? Won't that allow more participation? And won't that allow more, I'll say, sustainable opportunity, or I'll say more professionally professional opportunities for girls in the country? And if that happens, then that cycle will, and that's how it happened in multiple countries. I mean, I can go one by one, but I mean, that's how the cycle of uh, professional players, the culture building, the clubs becoming more regularized in the approach, all starts like that. Even in the Asian Cup, I am not a big believer in big events. I believe in 1% in increment over 1 month, 2 months, but being steady on that. Uh, and that's how things, if you can move, say, make 20% progress, it's fine, rather than believing that we have made 200% progress uh, over in the social media over some 2 month event. So, yeah, that's how I see it, very frankly.
Yeah, some great points raised by you there, Nirban. And finally, to ask you, what can we expect from Sangam Bihar FC maybe the rest of the year? What's coming up for the girls?
I think the one thing which is we will keep doing what we have been doing since last 6 years is to practice or play the game in a scientific way, in a very methodical, I'll say, program through where not only we're not focused entirely on trophies or the silverware. I mean, a lot of other things, such as the kind of football we want to play, the kind of way football we do play, we attempt to play, the player, I'll say, education in general. All those things will continue. That's for sure. The under 17, I mean, we suddenly heard that was the under 17 state championships are coming up. So yeah, I mean, that's another platform we're looking forward to. But at the same time, I think mm, if what to expect from us is a group, a community which is connected to the sport, practicing the sport, and will practice the sport and play this beautiful game in a beautiful way, however ugly the surroundings are.
Yeah, I think that's like a great way to put things down there. And Anirban, thank you so much, and may you continue to be unbowed, unbent, and unbroken. And that's the headline I stole from your story itself on the Kalpant newsletter Vuvuzela. But if I had to steal some more lines from it, I would end it rather this way. Just like, to sum it up, especially the last few things that you mentioned, and it clearly, I think this sentence and these phrases clearly mentions about that and puts in a very good sentence, I would say. Our performances, our results, and our football speak for themselves. You may not want to admit it, we are equals on and off the pitch. Now, the aim is to to be a baby step from apathy to empathy, empathy for a more just society, and not sympathy towards a malnourished portrait. I think, Anirban, thank you so much uh, for your time, for accepting once again this invite in the last minute, and for coming on the show and sharing all the insights and also sharing with us some updates of what's happening at the point.
Thanks, Eju. That's a great discussion.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Arco, if you're listening to this, you must be really happy and proud of me that I finally got this man on the show. To all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning into the Totally Indian Football Show. Continue to follow and subscribe. And if you haven't, please to subscribe and follow. We're available on all the leading audio platforms. Thank you once again, Anirban. Thank you once again to all the listeners. You were listening to the Totally Indian Football Show.